the sky above the city of Astera suddenly split open like a massive sheet of glass. From the crack emerged a colossal tree radiating ancient light, the world tree Yggdrasil, dragging thousands of grotesque creatures down to the ground with it. In just a few hours, the once thriving city had turned into a sea of fire. Buildings collapsed, screams echoed everywhere, and gigantic monsters began hunting humans like helpless prey. Amid the rubble, a young man named Kai Ren knelt on blood-soaked ground. Around him lay the bodies of his teammates, the people who had fought beside him until the very end. His hand trembled as he gripped a sword broken in half, his hollow eyes staring up at the crimson sky. It's all my fault. If he had been stronger that day, if he hadn't led the team into that fateful dungeon, maybe things would have been different. A massive monster stepped closer, its shadow swallowing Kai Ren whole. He closed his eyes, accepting the end. But at that moment, a strange light appeared before him. An ancient relic floated in the air, engraved with mythical runes. A deep voice echoed inside his mind. Do you wish to change the fate of this world? Kai Ren opened his eyes. And for the first time since the apocalypse began, his destiny changed. The light from the relic slowly faded, but the words that had just echoed still lingered in Kai Ren's mind. He looked down at the object floating before him, a fragment of ancient metal engraved with symbols he had never seen before. When his trembling hand touched it, a stream of information suddenly appeared before his eyes. Ragnarok Relic. Supreme mythical item. In an instant, waves of memories and data flooded into his mind. Kai Ren suddenly realized that what was happening to the world was not an accident. 3 years ago, when the Ragnarok gate first appeared in the sky, humanity believed it was nothing more than a strange phenomenon. But then monsters began pouring out of the gates, bringing with them dungeons and fragments of otherworldly lands that started appearing all across Earth. A small number of humans were fortunate enough to awaken a power system, becoming hunters capable of fighting the monsters. But most of humanity could only live in fear, hiding behind defensive walls that grew more fragile by the day. Kai Ren had once been one of those hunters, a weak one, who had always relied on his team just to survive. And the mistake he made during today's mission had led his entire squad to their deaths. But now as he looked at the glowing Ragnarok relic in his hand, Kai Ren understood something. His mistake wasn't the only reason. Someone had deliberately opened the Ragnarok gate. Kai Ren stood silently amid the ruins, the glow from the Ragnarok relic reflecting off his dust and blood-stained face. Strange lines of text continued appearing before his eyes, as if an invisible system had just been activated. Connection to the Ragnarok relic successful. Special skill unlocked. Almost instantly, Kai Ren felt his body begin to change. Wounds that should have been fatal slowly closed and his breathing became steady again. More importantly, he started seeing things that had never existed before. Hidden dungeon gates, the streams of energy flowing from monsters, and even the deadly weak points on their bodies. For the first time, Kai Ren realized he was no longer a weak hunter. In the distance, the massive monster that had been about to finish him off was still approaching. But this time, Kai Ren didn't step back. He tightened his grip on the broken sword in his hand, his eyes turning cold. Only a few minutes later, the monster's corpse crashed to the ground. Kai Ren stood in the pool of its black blood, breathing heavily, but the look in his eyes had completely changed. If the Ragnarok gate had truly been opened by humans, then the only thing he could do now was become strong enough to find whoever was behind it all. He looked down at the relic in his hand. From today on, I'll hunt everything that comes out of that gate. And so the journey of Kai Ren, the last survivor of Astera, officially began. In the months that followed, the name Kai Ren gradually became a legend among the hunters of Astera. Wherever a dangerous dungeon appeared, people would soon spot his figure there. Thanks to the Ragnarok relic, Kai Ren could see hidden dungeon gates that no one else could detect, absorb power from monsters, and grow stronger after every battle. From a low-rank hunter once looked down upon, he quickly climbed to the highest ranks. But for Kai Ren, power was never the goal. It was only a means to uncover the person who had opened the Ragnarok gate. It was during an S-rank mission in the ancient dungeon Helheim that he met Lena Voss, the commander of the city's most elite hunter squad. Unlike the others, Lena didn't see Kai Ren as something abnormal. Instead, she recognized the true value of his abilities. Together they led their team deep into the dungeon's core, a place believed to be the origin of one of the first Ragnarok gates. But when they broke through the final seal, what they found was not a monster. It was an ancient device built by humans directly connected to the gate's energy core. Kai Ren stood frozen. That meant the monsters weren't the invaders. Someone on Earth had deliberately opened the Ragnarok gate. The discovery inside the Helheim dungeon cast a heavy silence over the entire hunter team. The ancient device didn't just prove that the Ragnarok gate had been created by humans, it also contained data records about the person who had activated it. Kai Ren and Lena Voss brought the device back to Astera. After hours of decryption, a name finally appeared on the screen. Professor Adrian Ardent. Kai Ren felt his heart tighten. Adrian Ardent was no stranger. Years ago, he had been the one who trained Kai Ren at the Hunter Academy, the man who taught him how to fight, how to survive in a world filled with monsters. To Kai Ren, Ardent had once been a respected mentor. But the truth was even worse than that. The data inside the device revealed that Arden had not only opened the Ragnarok gate, he was also the leader behind a secret organization called Black Crown, a group secretly activating more gates all around the world. Their goal was simple and utterly ruthless: to recreate the world, a world where only the strong would be allowed to survive. Kai Ren stood before the data screen, his hands clenched so tightly they turned pale. If all of this was true, then the battle he had been fighting was not only against monsters. He was about to face the very teacher who had created him. After the truth about Black Crown was exposed, the city of Astera quickly turned into a battlefield. Multiple Ragnarok gates began opening simultaneously, as if someone had deliberately activated them all at once. Catastrophe-level monsters poured into the city, pushing the entire hunter force into a desperate fight for survival. Kai Ren and Lena Voss's team were deployed to the central district, where a massive Ragnarok gate was forming. They all knew it could be a trap, but if they didn't stop it, the entire city would be wiped out. The battle was more brutal than anything Kai Ren had ever experienced. Monsters kept appearing endlessly, and the energy from the Ragnarok gate made them far stronger than normal. Despite fighting with everything they had, Lena's team was slowly pushed back. Then the worst finally happened. While protecting Kai Ren from a fatal attack, Lena Voss was struck by a massive monster that pierced straight through her armor. She collapsed right in front of him. The monster's roar echoed across the battlefield while Kai Ren could only stand frozen, the crushing weight of helplessness tightening around his chest. At that moment, the Ragnarok relic in his hand began to vibrate violently. Cracks started appearing across its surface. If the relic shattered completely, the only power capable of resisting Ragnarok would disappear as well. And for the second time in his life, Kai Ren found himself watching everything fall apart, because he wasn't strong enough. Amid the ruined battlefield of Astera, Kai Ren knelt beside Lena Voss. Her breathing was growing weaker, and around them echoed the roars of monsters and the crashing of collapsing buildings. In Kai Ren's hand, the Ragnarok relic vibrated violently, cracks spreading across its surface as if it might shatter at any moment. Suddenly, a burst of light erupted from the relic. Lines of ancient runes appeared before Kai Ren's eyes, clearer than ever before. Final function unlocked. True nature of the Ragnarok relic sealing key. Kai Ren froze. All this time he had believed the relic was a source of power, a weapon that allowed him to grow stronger and fight monsters. But the truth was the complete opposite. The relic had never been created to fight. It had been created to close the Ragnarok gates. To do that, the relic had to absorb the entire energy of a gate, along with the power of the person bonded to it. In other words, the one who activated the seal would lose everything. Kai Ren tightened his grip on the relic. Around him, the massive Ragnarok gate was expanding with every passing second, while the forces of Black Crown had already begun advancing into the city. If no one stopped them, the world truly would be remade. Kai Ren slowly rose to his feet. This time, he finally knew what he had to do. Kai Ren rose to his feet in the collapsing battlefield of Astera, gripping the violently glowing Ragnarok relic in his hand. Ahead of him, the massive Ragnarok gate spiraled into the sky like a storm of raw energy, while the forces of Black Crown flooded into the city from every direction. And at the center of it all stood Professor Adrian Ardent. He stood before the gate, his expression calm, as if everything had unfolded exactly according to his plan. Kai Ren, you finally made it, Ardent said. The old world has already rotted away. Ragnarok is simply helping us create a new one. A world where only the strong deserve to exist. Kai Ren tightened his grip on his sword. The final battle erupted beneath the roots of the world tree Yggdrasil. The energy pouring from the Ragnarok gate made Ardent stronger than any enemy Kai Ren had ever faced. But this time Kai Ren wasn't fighting to become stronger. He was fighting to end everything. After a brutal clash, Kai Ren finally defeated Ardent. But that victory was also the moment he activated the final function of the Ragnarok relic. A blinding light exploded outward. All the energy from the gate was pulled into the relic, along with Kai Ren's power and his very existence. The Ragnarok gate closed. The monsters vanished. The city of Astera was saved. Years later, within the old ruins of that battlefield, a young hunter discovered a fragment of Ragnarok, still glowing faintly. A new era might be about to begin again. If you want to know what happens next, comment 1 below.